Namaskar, hello and welcome to Sunset TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. On the show today, we are going to talk about the All India Judicial Service, a proposal to centralize the recruitment of judges at the level of additional district judges and district judges for all states. In the same way that the Union Public Service Commission conducts a central recruitment process and assigns successful candidates to cadres, the All India Judicial Service seeks to establish a national level recruitment process for lower judiciary. Now, amid reports of the centre renewing attempts to build consensus with state governments and also the high courts on setting of the All India Judicial Service, the government informed Parliament during its just concluded winter session that only two states, Haryana and Mizoram, and two high courts, Tripura High Court and Sikkim High Court, are in favour of creating the judicial service. While 8 states, Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Meghalaya, Nagaland and Punjab have opposed the idea. 5 states have sought changes in the government's proposal. 13 states have not responded. And as per government data on high courts, 13 have opposed the proposal, 6 have sought changes in it and others have not responded. So in Perspective today, we will analyze with eminent experts on what the All India Judicial Service entails, whether it will strengthen the overall justice delivery system, the reasons why it is being opposed by states and high courts, and what is the way forward. Joining me on the program are 3 distinguished personalities, so let me first introduce them to you. I have with me Dr. Justice B.S. Chauhan, Chairman of the 21st Law Commission of India, Justice S.N. Dhingra, former Judge, Delhi High Court, and Mr. P.K. Malhotra, former Secretary, Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of Perspective on Sunset TV. Justice Chauhan, allow me to begin the program with your perspective on the All India Judicial Service, an idea that has been endorsed in the past on multiple occasions by the Law Commission several times, also at the CJI's conference, the Supreme Court, also successive governments, but which remains contentious even today.
Right. Madam, we must understand first that Article 233, which enables the High Court and the state to appoint the district judges and additional district judges, is analogous to Section 254 of the Government of India Act 1935. Because at the time of framing of the Constitution, our Constituent Assembly has taken the said Act of 1935 as a broad base for framing the Constitution. And that Section 254(1) provided that it is a state subject, not central subject. And in that third list, it was in the second list of that Government of India Act 1935. Mm-hmm. At the time of framing of the Constitution, a committee was constituted under the chairmanship of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the then Home Minister of the interim government, and this issue was considered. They did not consider it proper to include in the central list or list 1 for the reason that a large number of Indian civil service people were serving as a district judge. Okay. ICS people had a quota to become a district judge, and the charm for their interest was that they could be elevated to the High Court. So this was the basic reason that it was left in the state list. Even at the time of framing of the Constitution, it was the judges of the Federal Court and the High Courts, so Chief Justices of the High Court requested the Constituent Assembly to consider this issue. And this was considered in committee, but the same view was taken that it should remain as a state subject. Okay. The All India Services Act 1951 came into force, and it included only IAS and IPS. Other services were included in that after the amendment in 1962. Article 282, draft Article 282, which was the precursor of Article 312, provided that it shall remain a state subject and not the list of, not a subject matter of list 1. Mm-hmm. It was the 14th report in 1958 and 177th report in 1978 by the Law Commission of India that they had recommended the introduction of All India Judicial Service. But unfortunately, they said that the source for the parliament to legislate would be Article 249. Though they did not mention Article 249, they simply say Rajya Sabha by its two-third majority in national interest can legislate.
Okay.
Now, the difficulty with this Article 249 is it is for temporary legislation, not for permanent. Because they have to pass a resolution and the law will remain in effect maximum for a period of 1 year and is extendable for a further period of 1 more year. Now, after this, the 42nd amendment came after the recommendation made by the Swaran Singh committee. But Swaran Singh has said that you can introduce the All India Judicial Service after having due consultation with the states and the High Court.
Okay, okay.
Now, 42nd Amendment had brought large number of amendments in the Constitution, but we are concerned now only with the amendment of Article 312, by which the All India Judicial Service was introduced. The difficulty with 42nd Amendment is that most of the parts introduced by 42nd Amendment had either been struck down by the court or had been repealed by the parliament. Article 312 as amended remain intact for the reason that it was never challenged. No, there was no occasion for anybody to challenge it.
Okay, Justice Chauhan, so amid these difficulties, what is the way ahead and what are the reasons, other reasons on the basis of which the states are also opposing, the high courts are opposing? That is something that I'll come back to you and discuss in the course of the program. But in the meanwhile, let me go across to Justice Dhingra and get his perspective as well on what he thinks on the All India Judicial Service. Should it be implemented or not? Justice Dhingra, what is your view?
No.
The problem with our parliament and judiciary is that we love status quo too much. We have not tried to reform judicial system at any level, but to talk of All India Judicial Service. So All India Judicial Service idea was given, as Justice Chauhan rightly said, in 1958. Thereafter, it was given in 1978 by Law Commission. Again, Law Commission repeated in 1986 and again in 2006. There was even All India Judges, Chief Justices Conference, which endorsed this idea by majority and said that All India Judicial Services should be there. You see, the present scenario is that each state has its own way of examination,
Yes.
its own syllabus, and merit depends upon the state's choice as to what kind of syllabus it will prescribe for All India Judicial Service. Earlier, there used to be no examination. Till this Shetty Commission report came, there used to be only interview. It is only in Shetty Commission report that examination started for district judges also. And Shetty Commission also stated that there should be an All India Judicial Service. You see, we are, the courts are being deprived of proper talent. That is one reason that people are, you see, time and again bringing up this idea.
Absolutely.
That we are not getting appropriate talent at district judge level. See, one of the basic reason that good advocates do not want to become district judges and additional district judges in states is that in the present scenario, there is very little chance of district judges being elevated to High Court. And there is almost nil chance of their being making up to Supreme Court. In the entire judicial, you see, it's a history of Supreme Court, either one or two judges from district courts have been able to make up to Supreme Court.
Certainly, Dr. Dhingra, so that is one merit, of course, that you have pointed out, that it will enhance the quality of the judges if the judicial service is brought about. But coming to you, Mr. Malhotra, two problems when we talk about Indian judiciary which come to mind are pending cases, shortage of judges, which are interrelated, but of course remain two major challenges. And if I can quote data according from earlier this year, it says the case backlog, particularly in lower judiciary, was somewhere around 3.8 crore cases, accounting for the bulk of over 4.4 crore cases pending across Indian judiciary. And as we all know, there is massive shortage of judges as well, particularly in lower judiciary. So are these two problems going to be resolved if we have an all India judicial service?
Inaji, the issue of having All India Judicial Service has been debated and discussed for the last 6 decades. My two distinguished panelists here have already given the background under which this demand has been raised and why it has not been executed so far.
Yes.
Obviously, one of the reasons, as you are saying, I mean, when debated among the judges as well as among the law ministers, it has always been said that once you constitute an All India service, you will able to tap the talent from the whole country instead of confining it only to a particular state. Probably from that point, there will be a reform in the judicial administration. There are many ways of reform, and probably this is the one reform which has been considered. 3 law commissions, even in the All India Judges case, even the Supreme Court itself in 1992 said that there should be All India Judicial Service and it should be seriously considered.
Yes.
That's a different thing that in 1993, in the review petition, they left the matter to the central government to be decided, to take a decision on this. Even in the Chief Justice's conference, it has been discussed. But unfortunately, nobody wants to leave its power which they are enjoying. Unfortunately, the high courts, which are right now making appointment to the higher judicial service as well as lower judicial services, they want to give up their power. One of the objections being raised is because work in the lower courts is done in the local language, probably people coming from the other states will not be in a position to handle that kind of work. I think this probably argument doesn't hold much water. Yes, probably without local language, the knowledge of local language judges cannot work. But as in case of All India services like IPS and IAS, training in local language is given. Probably the standard of knowledge of local language to be given to judges will be much higher because they have to examine the documents. Only working knowledge will not be sufficient. So I think the ground on which they are denying it, or they are not permitting the All India Judicial Service to come into force, I think they are misplaced and probably they can be taken care of. It has been debated and for quite long. Even the parliamentary committee has recommended it. Simply because some of the high courts are not accepting it, we are a democracy.
Okay, since you mentioned about the high courts resisting the idea of having an all India judicial service, let me go back once again to Justice Dhingra and understand, Justice Dhingra, why are the high courts opposed to the idea? It's understood one of the reasons given by Mr. Malhotra, they do not want to let go of the authority that they exert. But the question is, at a time when there are so many pending cases, shouldn't the competency of the high courts be in ensuring faster and efficient delivery rather than being engaged in recruitment processes? Isn't it high time that they let go of and allow the judicial service to be implemented, considering the merits that both you and Mr. Malhotra have pointed out?
See, in most of the countries, the management part is always separate from judiciary part. It is only in India that even court management, recruitment, and all other sundry matters are being looked after by the High Court. Even you see buildings which are being constructed for the district courts or for the High Court annexes, etc. It is the High Court committees which take charge of these buildings and they construct. It is not that they give their requirement once and then they are told that you please see whether it has been. High Court is involved in all kinds of, you see, sundry matters apart from judicial work. So it is high time that the High Court should divest itself of certain things. Moreover, you see, I don't understand this mindset that once power is taken by any agency, they are reluctant to leave it.
Yes.
It is happening in Delhi, it is happening in everywhere, that the original jurisdiction, High Court is sticking with the original jurisdiction here and is not prepared to leave original jurisdiction. Same is the case with this recruitment. Once the High Court is, you see, busy, has taken the, you see, upon itself the power of recruitment. Now the High Court consider that, you see, there is no one more competent than myself. This is a kind of ego, and all other agencies are incompetent or they will become corrupt. And it is only the courts which are non-corruptible, and therefore they should have this power with them.
Okay.
This same, you see, story of elevation, same is story of recruitment at the High Court level and Supreme Court level.
Okay, so this explains.
Once power is there at the High Court or Supreme Court, nobody wants to give up this power. The real story is this. Other, you see, difficulties can always be taken care of.
Certainly.
Language.
Justice Chauhan, so both Mr. Malhotra and Justice Dhingra have explained the stance of why high courts are reluctant in agreeing with the idea of having an all-India judicial service. But one of the arguments that the states are giving is that it dilutes the federal structure. Now, how valid is that concern? And is it a strong enough reason to withhold the idea of having an all-India judicial service?
Entry 11 capital A to list 3 has been introduced by 42nd Amendment, deleting it from the list 2. Therefore, today, administration of justice, constitution and organization of the court is in concurrent list. Nobody can prevent the parliament to legislate upon it. Therefore, because it is a matter of concurrent list, even if the state makes the law, the central law will prevail in view of the provisions of Article 254, Clause 2. But the difficulty is the basic question which nobody wants to address is any law made by the parliament may override the law made by the state, but what happens but it is not possible unless Article 233 is amended accordingly and brought in conformity with entry 11A in list 3. Whole problem is that entry 11A in list 3 has been inserted by 42nd Amendment, which clause 4 provides that if any amendment is made to Article 233, it shall not be deemed to be an amendment of the Constitution in view of the Article 368. This clause 4 is very, very troublesome and requires judicial scrutiny. Because I tell you that most of the law introduced by 42nd Amendment had been struck down or had been repealed by the Parliament. This is the only law which remains intact. Now, this clause 4 of Article 312 creates a problem because it will not be deemed. Therefore, we have to find out the way how to amend Article 233 to bring it in conformity with Clause 4 of Article 312. And for that purpose, people argue that it is going to affect adversely the federalism. Another problem is Article 368 says in case central-state relationship is affected, any matter come in the Part 11, Chapter 1, which deals with the center-state relation, it requires ratification by half of the states. Therefore, their argument is that this clause 4 of Article 312 takes away the affects the federal character of the country, which is a basic feature of the Constitution. And therefore, today we require the political will. Central leadership should persuade the state to come in the line and ratify such a law if made by the parliament, or this clause 4 of Article 312.
Okay, Justice Chauhan, so when you speak of the political will, there are news reports that the government has in fact initiated consultations with all the stakeholders, is trying to gather consensus on this particular issue. But Mr. Malhotra, keeping in view the issues that have been cited by Justice Chauhan and objection from states and high courts, there are just 2 states and 2 high courts which have given a go-ahead. All the others either want some kind of changes or they have not agreed to it. Keeping in view all of these aspects, what is the road ahead if we want to have an all India judicial service, because the merits far outweigh the demerits?
whatever points have been raised by Justice Chauhan are really valid point and need to be considered. But the fact remains, as I said, during the last 6 decades, when this issue has been debated and deliberated, there has been consensus that All India Judicial Service should be brought into force. And so far as the Constitution is concerned, today it permits Constitution of All India Service. Maybe if somebody challenges this tomorrow, there may be arguments for and against, and let the court decide on that. I'm not questioning that, but the fact remains, as on today, nobody stops the parliament from making a law, and the Constitution itself provides, Justice Chauhan has mentioned about Article 312 clause 4, which specifically says that no constitution amendment is required. The parliament, in case the Rajya Sabha with 2/3 majority of the members present and voting, makes a law in permits making of a law in favor of All India Judicial Services, that law should be made. And even amendment of 334 or 233 or 234 as on today may not be required because of the existing provision of the Constitution under Article 312. I think it should be given go away so that it is implemented, and after implementation, in case any difficulties felt, probably necessary amendments in the Constitution can also be considered. So today, some of the high courts, if they are opposing that itself, should not be a ground to not to give it a go ahead and make an experiment as we are doing in respect of all India services in IAS and IPS. Whether the IAS officers who are selected by a common examination by the UPSC and IPS officers who are selected by the UPSC by a common examination and allocated to the state cadre and work in the state, does it really destroy the basic structure of the Constitution? That is part of the scheme of the basic Constitution itself. On the same analogy, if after 42nd Amendment, a provision has been made and the original provision of the Constitution has been changed, let us make an experiment to try it, and after trying it, in case it doesn't succeed, the necessary amendments in the Constitution can also be made.
Certainly. And Justice Dhingra, because all of this amounts to the fact that the All India Judicial Service entails to provide solutions to several of the problems that plague the Indian judiciary at the moment, particularly the lower judiciary. And at the same time, it also positively impacts judicial accountability and credibility. So keeping in view all of these aspects, what according to you is the road ahead?
Presently, what is happening is that each state is having its own exam, judicial service. Most of the time, recruitment is not made in time. And most of the time, court cases are filed where even examination results are stopped. Their appointment is stopped by each state. And I have seen where the cases in Bihar remain pending for 10 years in judicial seniority between two factions. And for 10 years, no recruitment was made in higher judicial service of district judges and additional district judges. Mm-hmm. Looking at this situation, I think All India Judicial Service is the solution so that recruitment takes place timely. Every year exam is there. The number of vacancies are filled. They are allocated to the states. They are trained and they take up their job. You see, pendency cannot be reduced only by recruitment. That is a well-known fact that it is not the recruitment alone and number of judges alone which will reduce the pendency.
Okay. So with that...
But we have this All India, we already have National Judicial Academy. Mm-hmm. We can give proper training to these persons how to execute the work in a speedier manner. Certainly. And then once we have common training, common platform, common service matters, I think we will have a good atmosphere for career, their promotion, and we will have talented people in this service who will be more interested instead of passing time. And so once we have become judge, now there is
absolutely. And most importantly, it will bring about transparency in the system and enhance credibility as we've been speaking about. So with that, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of Perspective. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program today and sharing your thoughts with us and our viewers. It was indeed a pleasure having you on the program with us. So with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Perspective. Thanks very much to our viewers for their time.